Metal Gear Online finally finds its way to PC 4 months after it debuted on consoles. Was it worth the wait? To be honest, that's very debatable. First off, why the hell did it take so long to make its way to Steam? We've never been given a real answer, and we likely never will either. But, of course, I won't lose much sleep over it. Now that it's finally here, it's been greeted with a very lukewarm response from the Steam community. But it's not hard to understand why when we actually take a look at several of MGO's shortcomings. The most notable issue would be the sheer lack of any and all content. This feels very bare bones. We're given a grand total of 4 maps and 3 game modes. Yup, that's it. You may be thinking that it'll be easy to become bored with MGO, and for most people, that would be correct. MGO is currently starving for new content. Konami has mentioned that DLC is on the way, but let's face it, the base game itself should have featured far more in terms of variety. What we initially got could be called anemic at best. Now, let's talk about the inclusion of peer-to-peer host connections. What in the name of fuck is such a feature still being used for in 2016? I understand that it's a cheaper alternative for developers since running and maintaining servers aren't exactly cost effective, but holy mother of God, MGO can be unbearable to play at times when connecting to a host that may as well be using a fucking 56k modem. I wouldn't have a huge problem with this, except for the fact that there are no ping counters to show what kind of connection that you're blindly walking into. If you're going to do peer-to-peer, then a visual ping counter should be a prerequisite, not a goddamn afterthought. Another problem with this is that when becoming the host, the game actually lets you know that you're the new host. With that knowledge, it makes it very easy for a sore loser host to cut his internet connection at the end of a game, effectively freezing the match for everyone else, and then getting booted after 5 minutes of being able to do absolutely nothing. But here's the kicker. Do you get to keep the experience points incurred from the match? Or the gear points? Hell no. They're gone. So you better hope that you weren't having the game of your life before Pissy McRageQuit cut you off. The last negative point I have to make before we dive into what actually makes MGO worth playing is hackers. I know what you're thinking, and I don't make accusations lightly, but don't take my word for it. In fact, please review the following video evidence, and then try to tell me that I'm imagining things. Now, I'm fairly sure most of you understand, but guess what? It's not actually the hackers that bother me. They are, believe it or not, pretty scarce. I've rarely run into any hackers so far in my 70 plus hours of MGO playtime. What does bother me, however, is the lack of support when reporting these Lifetime Failure Award winners. In true Konami fashion, they've made it nearly impossible to successfully report hackers, and the game itself is devoid of any anti-cheating system, such as VAC, Punkbuster, etc. Instead, to report a hacker, they recommend that you grab a serial number from the in-game options, I shit you not, that is tied to your MGO profile. Use it in a convoluted form on their website, and wait for a lack of results. I did report the hackers shown in the earlier clip, and at the time of this video, it would have been a week ago. But has anything been done? Say it with me now. No, of course not. he's still speed hacking freely with zero consequences. Alternatively, you can try to tweet your evidence to Metal Gear Online's Twitter, but after several attempts to tweet and DM them, it's clear that their Twitter doesn't allow you to communicate with them directly. This is a big fail that cannot be excused. Now that we've dredged waist deep through the putrid swamp of MGO's bullshit, let's actually review some of its finer points that actually gives me hope for its longevity. The gameplay itself is very well executed, just as you'd see in the single player portion. The classes, in my opinion, are very well balanced. I know many would disagree with that, but to me the classes are very well done. No one character seems vastly overpowered, but each class has their strengths and weaknesses to balance them out. For example, the Infiltrator is fast and nimble and has the ability to use stealth camo for a short period to sneak up on their enemies. However, the Scout can use night vision goggles to foil the Infiltrator's camo. And that's just one example of many. I think that a lot of MGO players haven't learned yet how to properly utilize most classes and discover their pros and cons. Once players have had more time to experiment, then we'll hear less and less about how MGO is so unfair and unbalanced. Furthermore, another argument that I'm hearing a lot of is people whining on the Steam forums about how MGO2 was superior. Keep in mind going into this that I'm an MGO2 veteran. I have easily logged over 300 hours. But MGO3 has a ton of potential, and I'll admit that it does play vastly different from its predecessor. MGO, for the most part, for those who don't know and never played it, felt a lot like Counter-Strike. Headshots were king, and many newcomers were very quickly overwhelmed with how pro-level gamer it felt. It was far from friendly and inclusive to gamers looking to try it out for fun, and I feel that's what mainly separates MGO 2 and 3. Don't get me wrong, it still can be a very hardcore experience if you want to make it that, but MGO 3 doesn't have the same massive learning curve that MGO 2 had. MGO 3 is easy for anyone to pick up and play, especially if you played through the single player game, but it's definitely not easy to master. One huge feature that the Steam version of MGO has over consoles is the ability to disable depth of field in the graphics settings. Why does this matter, you ask? Well, here's a practical exercise that you can try right now. Put your open hand approximately 3 inches from your face and look at it. Now, notice how you can see your hand crystal clear, but everything around your hand is blurry. That, my friend, is depth of field. It's a feature that's very common in video games today, but can have a massive hindrance when playing competitive multiplayer games. I'm sure I don't have to explain why this would get you killed over and over again, but for example, say I'm focused on one enemy and just killed them. I wouldn't be able to see another one rushing me from my flank, especially, God forbid, it's an infiltrator using stealth camo. Another plus for the Steam version is that it is possible to use a mod to increase your field of view, so that the camera isn't stapled to your character's shoulder. But then again, I suppose you could make the argument that this is in fact cheating. But for some people, the limited default FOV or field of view can cause some serious motion sickness. I personally don't use it, but I won't fault any of those who do. I've played with friends who do use it, and it doesn't appear to give a significant advantage. Not to blow my own horn, but I typically find myself at the top of scoreboards consistently without using it. But again, I'm not endorsing using mods, especially in a competitive multiplayer environment. I would say use this at your own risk, because in all likelihood, it may actually get you banned in the end. So let's hope that Konami eventually institutes an FOV slider in an upcoming update. Yeah, like that'll happen. Beyond all of those points, it is a fun experience that has a lot of potential. It sorely needs more content to keep players engaged for the long haul, but in its current state, a lot of gamers may become very quickly bored, and if you're thinking about picking up Metal Gear Solid 5 just for MGO alone, then your priorities are very backwards, since it does not stand on its own well at all, and the single player experience strongly supplements it to be a great overall value. But again, on its own, MGO is not worth it in its current state. It has a long way to go before it's an exceptional multiplayer game, but as it stands right now, I think anyone that is not a die-hard Metal Gear fan probably will not enjoy it. Hopefully more will be done in the future to correct these issues and get MGO back onto the right track.